Man, I hope this video blows up. When I tried to beat the Stalker series with just the PM pistol, one thought kept coming up. A grenade would really solve this situation. So today we will take this concept to its natural extreme and see what happens when you try to resolve every situation in the game using a grenade. Today I'm asking, can you beat Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl using only grenades? Like and subscribe, etc. and let's get out of here. The rules are simple. I can only attack enemies using grenades of any kind. The rest of my equipment can be whatever. You might be thinking, how is that even a question, given that grenades are a very powerful weapon? And truth be told, that's what I thought, hoping for a quick and easy video. But turns out grenades are actually not that powerful as Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. And even that I didn't get to find out right away, because talking to Sidorich in the beginning reveals that the first trader is actually not selling any grenades at all. This is quite the issue because the very first mission demands you take out a small bandit camp to rescue the courier that they captured. Of course you can just kill the courier instead and run off with the flash drive, but even then I need at least one grenade to throw at him. Admittedly, the game gives you a small squad of allies to help with the siege, so I come to tell them to start helping while I circle the bodies like a vulture. Unfortunately, they all get murdered long before they can put a dent into the bandits, and none of the corpses I find have any grenades on them either. So at this point, I am fairly stuck, and this is basically not even the first mission. Thankfully, Shadow of Chernobyl doesn't limit player movement as much as you'd expect, so I can leave the starter area without doing any missions. It just means the plot won't move either. My best bet right now is getting to Rostock to see if Barman has any grenades for sale. But that means I have to make it through the cordon and garbage areas without killing anyone. Just in case I reload the save before the Stalker group kick the bucket and start running my way through deadly encounters. The military under the bridge will just let you through if you bribe them, but I'm not parting with my pyrotechnics budget and just waddle away with a few bullets in my side. I will remember that for when I'm back and better equipped. The bandits on the block post leading to the garbage are much more insistent about me having a pass, but I managed to run through on the third attempt. For the record, unlike my PM video where I was specifically beating the game on the hardest difficulty, today we've set that to normal. So if some encounters seem easier than you're used to, that might be why. Or if they seem harder than they should be, that also might be why. The first Stalker game apparently has an incredibly Borg difficulty system. At the garbage entrance, a stalker named Yurik is being harassed by 3 bandits marked as friendlies. And usually as soon as you walk up to them, they just start shooting. Which is why I just walk around the whole thing, leaving all 3 as regular stalkers as far as the game's concerned. Fun fact, if you ignore them for long enough, these bandits will just go join some random stalker squads and behave as loners for the rest of the game. The real boss battle here is of course the duty squad at the gates leading to the bar. Usually they will let you through after you've grabbed a case with the secret documents from Agroprom for the second mission that Sidorich gives you. But you can also just kill the guy who tells you to go away, making the door swing open. Obviously we can't do that because, again, no grenades, but luckily even just running up to the door and spamming F while sniffing it will work eventually. It might trigger some of the guards to become hostile to you, but apparently not even all of them. So after much trial and tribulations, I reached the bar with minimal input on the game's world, only to discover that the barkeep will indeed sell me grenades. Small correction, the barkeep will sell me grenade. 1. The barkeep sells 1 grenade at a time, and only the weaker RGD ones. God damn it. Admittedly, that's plenty enough to kill Nimble and take the flash drive. But I was really hoping to see some guys go into lower orbit today, and this is not that. Hoping the Freedom Trader will have some, I go to the army warehouses and he does not have any. But one guy on the patrol that gets murdered by duty squad does have a grenade on him, so that's a win. Win enough that this guy from Skull's squad won't stop dancing on his corpse pelvis. His name is also Tim Kadrip for the record. I can't make this up. On my return trip, I get 2 more throwables from Barman, which feels like a miracle all things considered. So with 4 whole grenades, I come back to the garbage, only to see that the gates I glitched through to get here are now closed again. I try to slam them open, but the glitch just isn't glitching right from this side of the gate. So instead I have to play grenade golf trying to blow up the one specific guard to force the gates open again. This takes 3 out of my 4 grenades, so I groan and reload my save, only to find myself back in the bar, in front of the barkeep, who suddenly is offering me my 5th grenade. Interesting. If you haven't realized yet, and I know I personally never really looked into it, the barkeep has been resetting his shop inventory every time the area he lives in is reloaded by a player. Turns out, all traders do. That's just how they work. So you can easily run back and forth, in and out into the Rostock bar location to force restock the barkeep and Colonel Petrenko. Which is exploity enough, but get this, simply reloading a save also forces a location to reload. Meaning that you don't even need to run anywhere. I can just buy my 1 grenade, save the game, load that save, and the barkeep will have more grenades for me to buy. It's not quite the infinite grenade glitch, but with one only costing 200 rubles, this is close enough. With the sunrise suit from the Bloodsucker village in the army warehouses and over 50 grenades on me, I now come back to the garbage to find that the gates are still closed. This is really bad news for Proper, who it turns out totally sucks at grenade tennis. And I successfully take him out to swing the door open. The rest of the squad doesn't even react or turn hostile, so I can pass and even get to admire his replacement balancing precariously on someone else's Kalashnikov. I'm not entirely sure, but this does make it look like grenades being less of an aggro pool than you would think. Maybe as a way of preventing accidental angering of the allies, the developers made it so that attacking somebody with a grenade just does less damage to your reputation, which would make sense if I was, aiming at someone who is not my ally and just accidentally grazed them. But it is pretty hilarious when I'm intentionally demolishing non-hostile NPCs. Back on Cordon, I eagerly approach the army camp under the bridge, but the encounter actually exposes a new side to this challenge. I'm hilariously unhelpful against an enemy uphill from myself. Grenades are physical objects prone to bouncing, rolling and skipping. And they also don't actually explode on impact, so between the second they hit the ground and the second when they blow up, they have plenty of time to just roll away from whatever target I was going for. To use them really efficiently, I would need to get used to really leading the target, something I am remarkably bad at in this game. Nevertheless, I am confident enough in my ability to tell the Stalker squad that I will tackle the bandit camp on my own, and the line to trigger that, by the way, says, "I'll make less noise that way." Which is hilariously wrong given the, explosions. The low-level bandits are pretty fun to blow up, though I have to be careful and lead them away from Nimble, so he can still punch me out in Stalker 2. One fun property of the explosives that I also haven't considered is that I don't really have to aim anymore. Just tossing the thing vaguely into the enemy direction generally seems to hit, or at the very least send the enemy running out of their cover. And despite me not quite aiming at anything, Nimble does survive the fireworks, and Siderich now sends me off to grab the document case from the Agroprom Institute. This also makes a stalker named Fox spawn in, so I meet him to offer a medkit and maybe help against the swarm of dogs that chase him all the way here. Unfortunately, the time between me throwing a grenade and that grenade exploding proves to be long enough for the dogs to eat him way before I get to blow him up myself. Same issue repeats when I try to save Yurik from being robbed by killing him myself. The bandits shoot him first, but I do then blow up the bandits, just for a good measure. I have to admit, this is the first playthrough where I'm repeatedly failing at friendly fire. Trying to embrace that, I do my best to rescue the mole stalker from the military attack on the approach to Agroprom. And actually do a pretty good job shooing away the military. But with like 5 more soldiers still left in the backyard of the place, Mole suddenly decides to very slowly walk out of his hiding spot and then get completely shredded by the troops. Thankfully, after all these years, I don't really need his help figuring out where Strelok's hideout is, so I just jump down into the catacombs with only 18 grenades saved for later. The bouncy property of the explosives prove very helpful in the close quarter battle. Not only because I can basically shoot them around the corner, but also because the enemies simply have fewer places to run away to when I spook them out of their cover. The fact enemies scatter like that also becomes handy for whenever I don't actually want to deal with any of them. I can just scare them away from whatever passage I want to take here, and avoid any meaningful combat to begin with. Strelok's hiding hole is extra fun, because if you hide there, enemies tend to pile up right at the exit. So you can just toss a grenade into the bendy pipe serving as the entrance, and get multiple new corpse dots on your radar all at once. It's the most satisfying part of using grenades, by the way, the way the map just explodes in corpses every now and again. My bloodlust has to be lowered for the main army base, only because my grenade supply has gotten pretty low by the time I reach it. Don't get me wrong, I already danced this dance without hurting anyone at all before, and this time I at least can explode the major god in the case in the same room. Can't really spare a grenade for the siren though. Gotta keep this F1 in case the duty at the outpost are getting too comfortable. Once I bring the top secret crate to the barkeep, I'm free to snatch the key to the X-laboratory from Borov, the bandit boss. I then stand there, force loading the barman for 20 minutes until I have over 80 grenades. One reload restocks 0 to 4 grenades, by the way, so yes, this is quite mind-numbing. Say what you will about how grindy this game can get, but something about hitting F5, F9 on the repeat really drives home how much of my time I'm wasting. But one thing I completely forgotten in this mess is that items also generally have weight, and you can only carry 50 kilograms on you with, a few exceptions. In fact, if you tip over 60 kilos, your character won't move at all, and the more of that I dedicate to grenades, the less I have for medkits, bandages, artifacts and the armor. So, here's hoping 80 grenades is enough to blow up this one guy. I joke, but the construction site that the bandits are roosting in turns out to be quite challenging, simply by the virtue of it being unfinished. With floor missing in so many places, my throwables simply bounce to the lower levels unless aimed very specifically. This is also where another issue becomes clear. I actually have no way of defending myself within short range. Even if I did time a grenade explosion to when a bandit is right up to my face, that would only explode both of us, since I am as susceptible to grenade explosions as anyone else. I also completely flub and spend extra resources trying to break into the bandit armory on the base level. I seem to remember that there was a big stash of F1 grenades down there, and they are not there at all. The only explosives in the basement are a crate of vodka and a single Vogue charge for the rifle grenade launcher attachment, which is also titled in the game as a grenade. Once I get Borov all shrapnelled, I run out of the bandit base and leave for the first X-lab. The plant over it goes especially nice because I just toss some of my payload to scare the crooks and run past them. A new and confusing threat turns out to be the Snorks. Their leap attack is really good at cutting distance, and as established before, I can really not deal with short distance combat. I try to position myself by the anomalies to lure them in, but really just memorizing where the Snorks spawn and pounce from proves to be a much nicer strategy. But this is of course where the first pseudo-giant encounter happens, and this one time I just grab the code from the corpse and run. It's not that I don't want to try and fight a pseudo-giant with grenades only, it's that I'm so tired right now. But one encounter I cannot skip at all is the Pyrogeist boss battle that comes next. And hilariously, the poor thing goes down in one precise grenade throw, as soon as the wobbly spirit starts going upstairs. Man, if I did that on purpose, I would feel so cool right now. Of course, this is when, in the story, you lay down for a nap to see the S.T.A.L.K.E.R cutscene, only to allow the Spetsnaz to take over the Dark Valley. To my delight, the soldiers they sent into the lab only take one grenade each, so I'm off for the southern pass pretty soon. Now, I could just turn around and run for the bar, but there's a really fun opportunity here that I want to try. Straight up, I don't feel like storming the army outpost today, but the rookie village defense mission is actually interesting. See, the mercenaries attacking the place really like to pile up in a convenient line, where they can get exploded rather easily. But just my luck, I don't get my cool shot where I take out the whole squad in one explosion, because this one time, some random boars decided to attack their little wagon. So the mercs run off and disperse, and I have to hunt them down individually across the meadows. At least the pathing to the rookie village eventually kicks in, and I can start nuking them in one nice straight line. Thankfully, whatever explosives I waste on them, I can now replenish at Barkeep, especially since now he's actually selling the stronger F1 grenades. So I start mindlessly buying both types until I have 69 regular and 17 F1s. And I'm completely unable to run because I am 9 kilograms over capacity. You can probably guess that this is bad news for Professor Kruglov. He is the NPC you can rescue from the mercenaries in the wild territory, as you slowly scooch to the Yantar passage. I do actually take out the snipers in the initial building, just because the little golf minigame of throwing the grenades into the holes in the wall and watching them scatter is actually a lot of fun. And the ambush further ahead is also not anything, because they've used explosive barrels for cover. Though I have to admit, their sniper friend on the tower will remain there until the end of the game, because I cannot be bothered precision aiming at him at all. But the most cursed bit here in the wild territory definitely are the zombies in the anomaly tunnel. Because throwing explosives into fire anomalies just feels wrong on so many levels. Once I'm finally at Yantar, the zombies start showering me in bullets, despite me looking exactly like one of them, what with me barely dragging my feet and grumbling profanities. Professor Sakharov agrees to give me the prototype as long as I take his assistant on a field trip through the swamp. I agree, but as soon as we step outside the bunker, all the zombies that followed me here open fire, and Assistant Semyonov dies basically right on the doorstep. I think this is the closest to the bunker he ever died for me, and that's including all the times when I just killed him myself. Since he's right there anyway, I bring his corpse to Sakharov for fixing, and in the meantime, I leave to pick up some data from a corpse by the helicopter. And in case you're wondering, no, ecology professor scientist Sakharov does not sell any grenades at all, meaning that if I run out, I will have to go and restock all the way back to Barkeep. Here's hoping my supply will actually last. Breaking into the lab through the plant is a little bit of a problem, since I have essentially 2 seconds of run juice before my guy freezes in place completely. All the zombies have a pretty significant amount of health, but thankfully I don't actually need to kill them. It's enough to just down them into their little doing the worm on the ground animation, and then pass before they recover. The actual lab is pretty interesting. I basically panic my way through the initial couple of rooms, but the thing about a guy with a pile of grenades on him is that when he starts panicking, everyone else also should start panicking. So tooth and nail and a lot of medkits, but I make it to the main dome where the giant brain lives, which is essentially an area made entirely of catwalks without any walls. Any grenade I throw just bounces past the target and into the oblivion. Here's the thing though. In S.T.A.L.K.E.R, both grenades and the bolts have an alternative throw mode tied to the right click button. It's basically bowling mechanic, where the longer you hold the click, the stronger the throw will go. Never before this run did I have an actual use for this, mind you, but what I have found out now is that if you just barely tap the right click, the grenade doesn't get enough momentum to really bounce anywhere. So to get through the zombies blocking the way, I'm running up to them point blank, looking at the ground, and basically just gluing the grenade to the ground in front of them. A strategy taught to me many times by the Minecraft Creeper. Once the final lever is flipped, I once again lay down for a lore nap, and as soon as I get up from my dream vacation with Doctor, I'm forced to have an encounter with a controller. This time, however, I'm locked into the best weapon to deal with the mutant, and after the PM only video, I have quite a bit of anger pent up in me. With the big Fang enthusiast smeared into a thin layer on the floor, I grab the self-healing suit from Ghost's corpse, have the revelation that I am actually S.T.A.L.K.E.R, and jump off into the pipes leading back to Yantar. And since safe scamming has already become a necessary part of this video, here's what I do next. In the beginning of the sewers there's always a corpse of a random stalker. Looking in its inventory can trigger you getting a very specific stash. Any loner corpse in Yantar will do actually, but free stalkers rarely show up in the area, so it's easier to just save before searching the body, then reload the save if you don't get the new stash notification. And the stash in question is Fang's grave, all the way down in Prepet. And the reason why I want all stuff from it is that it contains the final Mama's Beads artifact, as well as a modified exoskeleton with better night vision. Naturally, it helps to have something like that waiting for you, in a run where a single piece of ammo weighs most of a kilogram. But right now, I have more urgent business to attend to, as at the end of the tunnel, there is another pseudo giant. So I have to be very diligent about clearing out the snorks so they don't get in the way of our legendary battle. The legendary battle is over in 2 yeets. For real, 2 F1 grenades easily put the creature down. This was so anticlimactic, I am almost upset. I climb out of the sewer to see the military helicopters flying to the zombie-infested plant, And wow, would you look at that? Their fan blades are spinning. That's not something you'll see in Stalker 2. Of course, after this run, I can sell a ton of artifacts to Sakharov, but he still refuses to give me any grenades in return. Where are you hiding them, old man? So obviously now we have to go to Barman to ask about my next mission. And you know, reload a save in front of them around 100 times. On my way I stop in the wild territory, hoping to find some electric artifacts to help me run better. But the only one I find is the flash stashed under the little house right at the passage. No wonder, cause I decided to look for electrical artifacts during the day. And they are only visible at night. Also, thanks to my comments, I have been informed that these crates near the truck on the way to the army warehouses can drop quality artifacts. So I place a grenade on top of them, but all I get in return is a message saying electric artifact detected. And I really gotta ask, is it? Cause I don't see one. I mean, obviously I don't see one because it's during the daytime. But I bring this up because this line about electric artifacts being detected does not appear anywhere else in the game I checked. I guess they wanted to signpost that there is actually an artifact to pick up here, you know, in case you are an idiot and blow it up during the day like I did. And yes, thankfully, later in the night I did come back and actually get my flash from them. But yes, my next mission is to go shut down the brain scorcher. I love how the barkeep just tells you to go and do that as if that's a normal thing to do. As if the brain scorcher hasn't been the biggest issue in zone exploration for literal decades. But this means that if I really wanted to run, I could also execute the skip directly to Prepet and go knock out the rest of the game in one trip. The only problem with that is really whether I can carry enough grenades on me without having an exoskeleton first. Which is as good of a spot as any to pull out the main plot twist for this video. Hey, remember how the Vogue grenades for grenade launchers are still called grenades? Yeah, I couldn't help myself and I snatched the Bulldog 6 grenade launcher as early as my initial trip to the warehouses. This is the revolver type grenade launcher that the duty leader wants you to bring him from the Freedom guys. And yes, it is just chilling in that one basement in the Bloodsucker village, whether you took the mission or not. It's sitting there since the beginning of the game, so obviously I did grab it when passing by. I just haven't actually used it yet. This thing uses Vogue charges and can have up to 6 of them ready to launch before needing a slow and miserable reload. The charges blow up on impact, making it a very delightful weapon against, well, pretty much anything. And given that the Bulldog launches grenades at the enemy, I see no reason why it wouldn't have a place in this perfectly valid grenade-only run. So, as you can imagine, this video is about to really take a turn. Just maybe not the way you think it's gonna. Because you see, I thought that with this shiny new gun in my hands, I would now WhatsApp to Colonel Petrenko and force reload him until I have more funny pipe bombs than I know what to do with. But to my surprise, the duty trader carries 0 grenade launcher rounds, and so does every other trader in the game. In fact, there's a very limited supply of ammo for the gun, with only 2 charges hidden in the bandit base, 2 more in the X-18 lab, and 2 more that I found in the tower of the Bloodsucker village. Another 7 can be found in the basement with the Bulldog itself, and I guess that's about it. Multiple stashes can get you up to 16 overall, according to the wiki, but seeing how stashes get picked up randomly, that's no help at all. But in all fairness, there is a theoretically unlimited supply of the Vogue grenades. It's just all of them are hidden very safely up this exact guy's ass. Let me introduce you to General Voronin of Duty, who will reward you 1 or 2 Vogue grenades for almost any of the side missions he gives you. And since these specific side missions are basically Skyrim's Radiant quest, they are actually repeatable. So I have access to potentially unlimited amount of Vogue grenades as long as I'm willing to sacrifice a whole lot of time and a whole lot of brain cells. So here we go! We actually start with a unique side quest where Voronin wants a special silenced rifle from a mercenary camp in the army warehouses. We will be back here later, so I just give them an old grab and run. This actually only gets me a different sniper rifle that I scoff at and sell to the barman. On the way, I do the quest for the informer in the bar and earn a set of mama's beads for exploding a master level Stalker 2. But then, eliminating some random bandit camp that was threatening a delivery barman was expecting gets me 2 new Vogues and some assorted grenade money. Another 2 are a reward for traveling to the wild territory and preventing a group of bandits from joining forces with mercenaries. There are actually no mercenaries in that camp, despite what the mission says, but explosions care not. One more charge is rewarded for eliminating a group of zombies on Yantar, which is supposed to be a cleanup operation for some zombified duty soldiers, but the game doesn't actually differentiate and just spawns in whatever zombies it can find. Naturally, they blow up just the same. That's when Voronin sends me to the exact same camp I just stole the special sniper rifle from, so I waddle back and wipe out the stragglers. Forgive me for not going into much detail with combat, I think you'll believe me when I say that few of these things can do anything against an F1 grenade. But just to be fair, allow me to very thoroughly describe to you this next mission where Voronin asks me to clear out a herd of flashes near the passage at Garbage. I arrive at the strategic point and scout out my victims, who are exactly, literally, one single flash. I blow it up and go home. Considering that at this point I'm just trading money for F1 grenades and then very slowly exchanging F1 grenades for Vogue ones, this is the best exchange rate yet. Anyway, next they ask me to eliminate everyone at Boar of Salt camp, and even the quest description admits that it's 30 or more people. For some reason, destroying this camp also completes the bugged quest to defend the duty squad over at the passage to Garbage, which is some luck, because the squad only had 2 guys left in it to begin with. But that's still not as bad as him sending me to eliminate a camp of mercenaries over in the wild territory on the, once again, unfinished construction site. This one is much worse, because a bunch of them are on the top level, which basically doesn't have any walls, so any grenade I throw immediately rolls off and explodes somewhere back on the first story. And of course there's a bunch of eliminating dogs or killing bandit camps. The little stories that they've written for these missions really do help, but at the end of the day, gameplay is gameplay, and while blowing people up is fun, the travel time is really itching at me. But much as I complain about the quests that Voronin gives, it's much worse when he doesn't give any. So obviously after a few more missions, I run out of missions. The general will start offering new ones, it's just he also needs to restock right now. But unlike any of the traders, this will take 24 in-game hours for the duty leader to come up with new tasks for me to do. Which obviously means I am very bored. So standing there, staring at General Voronin, I figure I can get him that stupid Bulldog 6 gun. Now, I'm not going to give him my basement edition grenade launcher, that one's mine. But I know for a fact there's another one in the armory at the Freedom Base. I just have to figure out how to nab it. The door into the stash is blocked by a remarkably rectangular guy who I can't squeeze past no matter how hard I try. Obviously, I don't want to start an all-out war with Freedom if I can avoid it. So I decide to try and cheese my way in. First I go into one room over and push the chair from it all the way to the guard. I then desperately mash jump and crouch trying to climb over the guy. When that doesn't work, I decide to straight up assassinate the guy. Luckily there's an old and reliable strategy for taking out friendly NPCs without other friendly NPCs getting angry at you. Across the army warehouses there's plenty of explosive barrels just kind of laying around. So an NPC killed by you, the player, will be registered as a player kill. However, an NPC blown up by an explosive barrel will not. So I try to hijack one of their barrels and roll it all the way into the main building, which of course doesn't actually work because for some reason everyone inside of the main building suddenly decides to walk around aiming their guns at the western wall. Which is kind of irrelevant because even if I did drag that barrel into the building, I have no way of setting it off outside of also blowing it up with a grenade, which surely would have counted as a player kill anyway. However, everyone getting on high alert suddenly became really helpful, and the guard crouches down waiting for some threat. I'm guessing they noticed the duty squad in the huts nearby, but I won't knock it. So I climb over the conveniently bent over guard and into the back room, only to discover that the door into the armory is on a padlock, and also there's no way for me to leave. The lock is actually a Stalker 2 style padlock where you can shoot it off or even knife it open. But obviously the one weapon I'm allowed to use here are the grenades, and I'd hate to break the run here. Ignore the grenade launcher, it still counts, okay? What's frustrating is that I actually managed to explode the padlock open without angering the Freedom Gang. It's just then I also realized I can now not get out of the armory at all because the guard is still in the middle of the passage and refuses to move, and my helpful chair is stuck on the other side of him. A bit perplexed, I load up the Stalker wiki and find out that you can push NPCs around by pushing crates into them. So I drag one from Merc's trading room and indeed successfully move the guard deeper into the corridor. He then returns back to his exact spot, so I have to try again. Well, in the puzzle game fashion, I just push him in again and then stash the crate itself in the room inside. Which is helpful, but adds another level of precision to the throw of the grenade, because now I need to also not explode the crate that I need to get out of here. Which is actually irrelevant anyway, because now, for the life of me, I simply cannot repeat the padlock precise grenading. No matter what I do, I either blow up everyone in the base and the padlock, or the padlock remains fine despite there being a giant explosion right next to it. So, after 10 tries, I decide screw it, blow up the guard, grab the grenade launcher out of the armory, and run out of the base while everyone's shooting at me. Thankfully, they were at least storing the bulldog with extra 6 grenades for it, as well as already loaded it with 6 more. So, that's 12 Vogs net surplus, and all it took was half the zone now hating me. Truly a successful operation. Voronin is glad I got him his animal, but that doesn't fix his mission algorithm at all, and he only continues the quest in the morning. Which could be a good thing, because between the Bulldog 6, all of my ammo for it, 69 hand grenades and 160 F1 grenades, I have already collected more for this build than a player can carry. But that's quitter talk, so I continue milking Voronin for missions to try and save up for an exoskeleton. The only problem really is that exoskeletons can't run. And without the ability to run, I won't be able to execute the skip to Prepet, and will have to actually tune off the brain wiggling antenna first. Sure, I could take off the exoskeleton and try and run anyway, but then I would have to get rid of all of the grenades that would be overloading me. And there's no way to restock my grenades on the other side of Prepet, especially since in an unmodded game, you can't actually return from the city at all. And really, tuning off the brain scorcher might be a great opportunity anyway, because it's my only chance to measure my arsenal against some monolithians and still be able to come back to the bar and restock. Despite being well armed for once, I still choose to go through the Red Forest pathway, because it's not the place that's covered by RPG fire. Actually, now that I think about it, what does RPG stand for? A grenade launcher, you say? Whee! For a moment I was worried about the climb up the Brain Scorcher hill, but turns out the sandbag barricades that the monolithians are hiding behind are also really good as catching baskets for my grenades. Once I'm in the labs, the road to the lever is not really anything, because the bloodsuckers can be rather easily avoided, but the way back becomes a problem as the catacombs are filled with monolithians and their armor seems to be too tough for RGDs. Clearly, I should have brought my bigger bombs. And while I won't mourn my supply of low-tier explosives, it is pretty bad that I ran out of medkits navigating the bunker. Another thing I didn't expect is how few of the enemies carry any grenades themselves. Sure, in this game they can't even use them, but I feel like I should be seeing more F1 charges lodged into their corpses. Luckily I can still come back to the barkeep and drain him of all his lamp oil, rope, and most importantly, bombs. Finally, I save up enough doing missions and selling artifacts to buy me an exoskeleton, so we can move forward. Not very fast, mind you, but we can move. And since the suit won't let me run anyway, there's at least no penalty for exceeding the 70 kg load limit all the way to 80. That's still not enough for me to take all 120 of my F1 grenades, but if on my way through Pripyat I meet something that can't be killed with just 64 of these, I guess I'll just load back and readjust. To think about it, in this mess I completely forgot to actually try out my bulldog gun. Everything else got a trial by fire, why not it? And luckily I got a perfect victim in mind. Yep, seems to work right. Before I leave for good, I pay one final visit to General Voronin, drop every single RGD grenade I have left at his feet, and then toss one on top to see what happens. Unfortunately, the explosions do not chain with all the grenades laying there as an item, but at least the duty leader gets to kiss the ceiling one last time. At that point, I was ready to go to war with duty and fight my way out of the bar area. But apparently me doing all of those missions has shot up my reputation with the faction so high that even making their leader do a little dolphin jump didn't actually make us enemies. I guess the game really did think that I accidentally dropped around 80 grenades under his feet and tossed another live one on top. The bizarre friendly fire mechanic actually has quite a few very interesting consequences here. The sirens started blaring across the bar and multiple squads of loners have become hostile. But as long as I never actually return fire, the duty gods seem to be chill with me. And since this means I can always come back and resupply, I decide screw it. We explodificated the duty leader, let's go blow up the freedom one as well. Of course, my last visit to the freedom base left quite the impression, so I'll have to fight my way both there and back out. Which is why we'll have to employ the help of the rogue duty squad hanging out outside the army warehouses. Their group has already gone against the party line and has gathered here to come assassinate Lukasz, breaking the peace treaty between the factions. So if anything, they should thank me for removing the commander that disavowed them. The Splinter Cell actually has a unique plan of attack for the base. They've already rigged the concrete fence to explode, but a sniper won't let them detonate it to break it. And of course, any of them are more likely to get a hit on the sniper with their assault rifles than me with the explosives. The guy's sitting in a sniper nest on a tower. It would take a rather precise grenade toss. But the Skull Group, of course, won't risk any of their numbers for this mission, almost as if they know that if I die I just reload a save. After a few of my attempts only really ruin the lawn on the other side of the fence, I decide, screw it. Pull out my grenade launcher and deliver one directly to the sniper's face. I choose to believe that this grenade is the one I got from the flash kill. Once the sniper is out of the picture, the team is ready to storm the castle, and I join in, even if me actually attacking any of the enemy is more likely to blow up the duty crew than any of the locals.
Move on, folks.
The mission is actually structured around progressing through the base, clearing out the threats on their path. And naturally, a bunch of them are also snipers, who are also on the towers. So I pretty much abandoned whatever plan they had and rushed directly for the main building. I mean, as much as you can consider my snail pace and the exoskeleton rushing. This does not work out for pretty much anyone but me, as all but one of them get murdered behind my back by the time I actually nuke Lukasz. Which turns out to be not that hard to do, because the leader of the faction is hiding out in, once again, closed quarters in the main building down the center. At first I even tried to smoke him out by tossing grenades in the windows, but unfortunately Lukasz seems to be really insistent today on just sitting in his office that's walled off on every side. So I have to walk in and gradually make every centimeter of the interior explode. Much to the detriment of two of my allies, who did actually successfully reach the building after all. Worry not, the Freedomers take them out shortly after. By the time I'm anywhere near the extraction point, only one of the original duty squad actually remains, and all he has to do is flipping follow the train. So the constant poo-poo of the entire faction is only a minor inconvenience. But, typically, my one remaining ally does not actually share my sentiment, and decides that single-handedly he will now attempt to clear out every single remaining person in the faction. Which is admirable and ambitious, but also gets him killed almost immediately. This means, among other things, that there's no one left now to pass me the payment, so for spending this much of my grenade stash, I don't even get any reward. I don't even technically get the leader of the Freedom killed either, by the way. If you listen to the rumors of the Freedom NPCs back in Prepet, they say that they found the group of Miklucha, the original founder of Freedom, who is rumored to return, and in fact does return, in STALKER 2 Heart of Chernobyl. So if anything, nuking Voronin had more impact on the game world than this whole rigmarole, because without him there's no one to drink all the vodka back in the sequel. But now with our bragging rights secured, it's prime time we've gotten back to the main quest. Especially since really, it's just the best part that's left. Prepet. Once I reach the dead city, I happily demonstrate to the Master Stalker squad that they could actually make it through the city very easily if they just walk slowly down the middle of the street, ignoring everyone, as long as they have a squad of idiots following them taking all the fire. Since my exoskeleton at this point is only half of an exoskeleton, I visit Fang's grave to grab a new one and the mom's spaghetti artifact. but the anomaly central square the grave is in is completely covered in monolith fire. They have like 3 or 4 standback piles overlooking, it's crazy. Well, no time like today, so I finally pull out the grenade launcher and start grenade launching. And after all the work I've done for this, all the time I've dedicated to it, boy is it a disappointment! Even a direct hit with a Vogue tube only really downed the Monolithians, and I refuse to waste 2 shots on every clown, which does rob me of watching the enemy do the funny spinny in the air, but does mean I mortally wounded a bunch of dudes and left them there to bleed to death. And can you blame me? It costs several hours worth of side quests to fire this gun for 2 minutes. As I reach the Chernobyl power plant, it occurs to me just how bad of an idea it actually is to do what I am doing. This is a nuclear electrostation, and it already has been blown up enough in its time, especially within the Stalker timeline. Don't think it needs any more exploding than it already got. As per usual, I find the one hole in the fence that's not a part of the background, and hug the side of the NPP to walk slowly, watching the army helicopter lose their mind completely. I even pick up a Gauss rifle from one of the snipers that the military shoots down with a rocket. This is for later Dur shenanigans, don't worry, I'm not about to try and convince you that G in Gauss stands for grenade. The final level of the sarcophagus is an interesting situation too. It's of course a close quarter battle, which is good because quarters, but bad because close. Anyone cutting the distance to me is a death sentence, but at least the Gauss snipers are easy enough to take down. Somehow in this mess, I throw a grenade at a wall in the exact precise way where the explosion annihilates me out of existence, but also seems to have thrown my corpse into some sort of an area gate, which promptly offers me to move to the next location. Out of sheer befuddlement, I click yes, just to see what happens. And what happens is I spawn outside of the map, unable to move, and fallen through the skyblock. I have no idea where I have transcended to, but this certainly feels like a religious experience. Luckily, I can just load a save back into Mortal Realm, which is where I kind of remember that this is the final level, and start throwing explosives with reckless abandon. I even switched to the grenade launcher completely to clear out the server room past the hole in the wall, which has been pretty consistently a pain in the neck in these runs. Despite what you'd expect, the stairway past it is actually much more suited for regular grenades, because I can precision throw them across the flight of stairs and hide from the attackers a level below. But any strategy definitely just goes out of the window when I reach the top floor and know for sure there is no more game after this. But I don't actually have enough ammunition at this point, and also have done entirely too much for my chosen ending to just ignore the cool rock screaming at me to come to it. So I go back down to the cracked roof of the sarcophagus and make my wish. Which, given that I now blown up both the leaders of the duty and freedom, and have spent all my money before the final run, can only be the wish to rule the world. Chunks would load when I gave the word. And I hope you can guess why I decided to go for this ending specifically, because the cutscene for it does make your character explode. So yes, you can beat Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl using only grenades. Except the monolith endings aren't really canon. And also using the grenade launcher is probably cheating. You know what? This is not conclusive. Let's do this. Let's beat Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl using only actual throwable grenades. I still reserve my right to throw both F1s and the RGD ones, but only them. Let's be pedantic and treat this seriously. Luckily, I never actually used my Bulldog launcher until I got on the exoskeleton, so I have a save that's still valid within those parameters. Besides, in that reality, I didn't even assault the Freedom Base, meaning that only the Duty faction is completely decapitated. That's gotta be a good thing. I won't even have to replay the retaking of the brain scorcher. All that's left to do here is go from the bar to Raider, cross Prepet, survive the power plant, and take the extra secret door into sarcophagus. Sounds pretty doable, at least until I actually load in and realize that once I leave the bar, I have no way of resupplying. So whatever grenades I take with me are the only ammunition I get until the end of the game. For the record, giving up the Bulldog gun, all the charges for it, and most of my hoard of bandages only gives me enough backpack space for 86 F1 grenades. One monolith grunt on average takes 2 to take down, and I know for a fact that there's more than 43 monolith grunts between me and the end of the game. Meaning that we'll need to avoid as much combat as we can for at least the Red Forest, Prepet and Power Plant run without actually being able to run from the combat either. That soul artifact in my belt will have to do some serious legwork regenerating my health, is all I'm saying. The first sign of trouble breaks out at the entrance to the Red Forest, where the leftover monolith fighters are still doing their monolith fighting with the military troops. It's one thing that I get mega shot by a sniper at the entrance into the Red Forest skip, it's another that I also become heavily irradiated while not really having any anti-rad meds. Again, the soul artifact and the Mika are carrying something hard. All the mutants exactly where I left them, and that includes a bloodsucker and a psi dog, both of whom I would fail to kill even if I wanted to because of how fast they move. Somehow, I managed to sneak by them by just going the opposite from where the smells of them are coming. But I did hear the psi dog growling at me, and then an anomaly go off. So maybe that psi dog just ran into a whirligig or something. I like to think it did, but I haven't seen it. Thankfully, at the Prepet Pass, the Duty and Freedom have already eliminated all the monolith gods and also each other, providing me with ample corpses to loot for anti-rad and medkits. My weight capacity is still the same, so I have to max out and get 79.99 kilograms on me out of the 80 allowed. A leaf will fall on me and I'll stop moving. In Pripyat, Operation Walk Slowly commences, and I'm not even going to pretend that I'm not listening to a 4-hour Charmed retrospective the whole entire time. I walk ahead of the Master Squad, ignoring the monolith shooters, and the monolith shooters helpfully switch the targeting to the Master Squad after only sending a couple bullets at me. As for the ambush at the end of the street, I easily avoid it by doing this clever strategic move, where I turn left instead of right. This is also where I meet the remainder of Mikluka's advanced Freedom Squad, and also notice a weird spinning corpse on the radar, which gives me this wonderful sight. These are supposed to give apart after a few spins, but I guess this anomaly is just having fun with him. The left path through Pripyat is supposed to have its own dangers, like a squad of military delivered here by a crushed helicopters. And the crushed helicopter is still there, but all I find in their place is the second soul artifact. Sure, I have to remove my moonlight, and just walking now also eats into my stamina. But I need all the health regen I can get, so this is a worthy exchange. To punctuate just how boring this is, even the RPG sniper on the roof just sends one rocket my way, and then kind of gives up and stops shooting. Sneaking mildly by all the monolithians, I eventually reach the Avantgarde Stadium and pass the power plant without really getting noticed. And I only am this shocked by this because the Master Stalker squad in the beginning clearly says that they'll lead you through the safer path, while a much easier route apparently is available if only they turn left instead of right. On my way through the NTP neighborhood, I once again take the familiar route by the wall and only die at some point because I zone out and get into a gravity anomaly. Even walking as slowly as I do, I reach the sarcophagus with 5 minutes till the emission. That's also where I completely run out of stamina and have to sit down and recover in the middle of the monolith outpost. Somehow, even then, they still fail utterly to actually kill me. At this point I'm questioning if my computer is working right. Guys, I don't think this normal difficulty is as normal as they say. This trick, unfortunately, won't work with the densely populated corridors of the sarcophagus itself. But at least I made it here with all the 87 grenades I got. Yes, 87, and I have started with 86. I actually picked up a few on my way from the corpses. This area actually introduces a new and exciting enemy. Ceilings. The long corridors with the Gauss sniper at the end turns out to be really hard to pass because the arch of the grenade throw is simply not steep enough and the payload hits the roof instead of reaching the target. Meaning that we have finally unlocked the second use for the charged right-click throw! Yay! It's been over 15 years since the game's initial release. I only now am using this feature for actual useful stuff. The real problem here, of course, is what I started to call the headache room. It is the passage to the side with a hole in the wall leading to what seems to be a monolith sleeping quarter. Obviously, the sleeping quarters themselves are filled with enemies, but they wouldn't be as much of a headache if the room leading there wasn't this tiny 2 meter by 2 meter bottleneck with wire fence blocking half of it off. Of course, wire fence can easily be shot through, but grenades cannot pass through it, meaning that the enemies get a real convenient view of me while I can't even attack them without sneaking through. But also, the room itself is highly irradiated. I can't stay in it for any amount of time right now, what with my 2 anti-rads. So I can't even hug the wall and do my around the corner trick. Sure, I could still make the room into a grenade trap for advancing troops, but here's the thing. None of the troops are advancing to begin with. All but the exoskeleton tanks refuse to approach the hole in the wall, and the ones who do pass it too quickly for me to react. By the time I see them from around the corner, they're already shoving a shotgun in my face. The only thing that worked for me here is the sheer luck and also unloading around 10 of my grenades just to breach the wall hole. After which I just positioned myself in the further end of the sleeping quarters and played duck hunt for a while. And even then, it takes another 10 grenades to fully clear out everyone present. I could maybe use them more strategically to take out more than one enemy at once, but everyone here is a little too eager to meet me and refuses to stay in one place long enough to blow up. I at least have a relatively easier time with the rising stairway to the upper sarcophagus corridor. But that's where I find out that there's something else I failed to take into account. Radiation. In my rush to get rid of as much weight as possible, I have completely forgotten to pack any anti-rad meds, which has been only a minor issue up until now, but obviously becomes a problem here in the sarcophagus of the power plant. Obviously this place was going to be irradiated as hell, why haven't I thought of that? Most of the corpses here don't carry any anti-rads either, but at least the super irradiated room with the stash of the artifacts has 5 of them hidden away. Only 1 is enough to clear the radiation sickness entirely, but that's not enough to help because, well, everywhere is radiation sickness. Everywhere except for the final secret door, that is. Next level is actually refreshingly insulated. But first I'll have to actually get there, and no decoder ring to actually open the door. Yeah, I did actually go and meet the doctor, because when you do, you get blown up by a grenade trap, and I thought that that was very fitting for this run. I could have reached the secret hotel room in Prepet and grabbed the decoder to open the door. It's just, you know, walking while under rocket launcher fire all the way there seemed like a very silly idea at the time. But we can still get the door open even without Fang's funny calculator. As my comments helpfully pointed out last time we've been here, the code door in Stalker are all physics objects, meaning that if another physics item would randomly spawn in midway through a door, it would very much get confused and started gaining random collision momentum, which is exactly what throwing a weapon out of your inventory does. You just gotta grab a big enough gun and toss it at the door frame at an exactly wrong angle, and voila, the thing straight up disappears off the hinges. The thing straight up disappears. Voila, the thing straight up Look, I'm not very good at this trick, please bear with me. Yes, this is a Gauss rifle I picked up from a corpse, already here in the power plant. Turns out the G in Gauss rifle stands for Get Out of Here, Stalker! I have 35 grenades and I have 0 medkits. And there are 2 full levels still left of the game. Send help. The tunnels leading to the projector thingy are fucked. I can barely drag through the avalanche of enemies, even when leaving every other one behind. It helps that some of them get disoriented. And well, at the very least, this place is actually very rich in armor suits. There's a couple exoskeletons playing around, but I decide to instead try and grab the Bulat suit hidden in a side nuke, which is basically the strongest non-exoskeleton suit that lets you still run in it. And by now, I've shed enough of my weight that the carry capacity stops being a problem. Credit where it's due, the tunnels in this area are the best place as far as getting dudes launched goes. People go ragdolling left and right, I love this. Unfortunately, this still leaves me only 20 grenades by the time I reach the server room before the monolith projector. Which is bad enough, but consider this. Once you kill everyone in this room, there are 3 more exoskeleton level guards that come out of the door as soon as it opens. And I've got only 11 grenades by then to deal with them. Which I spent none of, by the way, because I just lured them out of the room and just walk in there behind their back. Once you're in, the blast door closes, locking them out. And there I am, ready to conclude the story by destroying these blue emitters standing in a circle. This is the actual monolith control module, projecting the illusion of the wish granter. This is the thing that they stole in Stalker 2. And one level away from the true ending, it turns out, these glowy fuckers take no damage from explosives. Even if I throw every single grenade I have at a single one of these emitters, it refuses to turn off. And what's funny is that just right-clicking it with a knife blows out the light bulb. so it's not like they have infinite health. They're just apparently blast proof. I don't know if me actually doing this with the knife invalidates the run or not. In theory, these aren't enemies after all, more like appliances. And I would argue it doesn't, but that means I have to admit something about that time when I didn't knife a padlock and instead decided to go to war with the entirety of Freedom Faction. Hey guys, are locks and lamps people asking for a friend? Also a bunch of fire geists spawning, I just ignore them and keep stabbing. That's when the representative of the common consciousness hologram appears to infodump about all the parts of the plot that I've forgotten to include in the actual game. Little does he know, I'm only here to blow him off, or even blow him up. Declining the offer to join the brain-melted scientists spawns you in the glorious final level, where you get to run around the nuclear power plant structure, leaping from one teleport to another, looking for the one that will take you to the final cutscene. And I entered this whole thing with 0 medkits and exactly 1 bandage. I do have 3 soul artifacts for health regeneration by now, so make of that what you will. The portal running starts out pretty rough actually. The first location puts you pretty close to the monolith gunners, so I have to spend some of my remaining explosions to at least disorient them, if not kill any. Getting anyone killed at this point really is not a priority, especially not with the Gauss snipers overlooking the spot. But really, once you get to the broader, more open roofs, the game gets ironically much easier, despite there being more heavily armed enemies. There are at least places to break the line of sight, and there are ways to just walk around whoever is shooting at you. It still is a situation where I have to reload a save every other minute, but with small adjustments to the path and a little bit of luck, I can finally make it to the last portal. Just pretend that it's tiny grenades that Sherlock's shooting the scientists with, okay? And with that being said, the final cutscene plays, proving that yes, you can beat Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl with only grenades. Just for the love of God, please, if you do this, settle for the monolith endings. Because the 2 levels after them are kind of insane. I don't know how this run became more cumbersome for me than playing this game with just the pistol you get in the beginning. That being said, thank you so much for watching this video and coming with me on this journey. And also my gratitude to my channel members, who all got to see this approximately a week early. Or rather my channel member, because I only have one, and their name is Feral Ema Girl. I really appreciate your support. If you have any ideas for more challenges like this, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.